Rama asked, how does one tread the 7 states of yoga, and what are the characteristics of these 7 states? These were mentioned back in chapter 120, and we get a more detailed description of them here. But they were also mentioned way back in section 3, chapter 118. They were called the 7 states or planes of wisdom. I would prefer to see these as a process. There's a danger that this will become a path. So it's best if they can be seen as a process and experienced as such. But if you can't see them as a process, then I suppose they can be seen as an alternative to actual self-inquiry. If the point of self-inquiry is missed, then you might as well pursue this. Vasishta continued. Man is either world-accepting, pravritta, or world-negating, nivritta. The former questions, what is all this liberation? For me, this samsara and life in it are better, and engages himself in the performance of his worldly duties. So this is most people. What's all this nonsense that I'm spouting? Let's just get on with our life and have as much fun as we can. Some people have got no problems with life. That's fine. But according to this tradition, after very many births he gains wisdom. He realizes that the activities of the world are a meaningless repetition and does not wish to waste his life in them. He thinks, what is the meaning of all this? Let me retire from them. He is considered nivritta. So we've got this idea of progress here. Some people seem to see their life sometimes in animal terms, animalistic terms, or very basic terms. It's all about food and shelter and looking after your young. That's the basics. And yet we've dressed it up and it becomes very, very complicated because we want our comforts as well. It's our comforts that make life complicated. How shall I cultivate dispassion and thus cross the ocean of samsara? Thus he inquires constantly. In other words, where do we go to next? You're not so much into it anymore. You can see it's all a bit of a mechanism. It's all going on like clockwork. It's a treadmill, the rat race. We don't want to be caught up in it anymore. So how do we stop from getting caught up in it? This is dispassion. And by thinking about this, day by day, this thought itself generates dispassion in him, and there arise peace and joy in his heart. I doubt it. There can be tremendous anguish, tremendous soul searching. You're setting yourself outside the normal stream of things. It's a very painful thing to do. But I suppose you do have a sense of conviction in that this is where you have to go. So that's about the closest you might get to peace and joy. He is disinterested in the activities of the marketplace, but engages himself in meritorious activities. You get 2 types of people, don't you? You get the ones which are quite happy to throw themselves into the world of commerce. And you get other types of people who are more concerned with social functions like social work or teaching or things like that, nursing. They want to actually help people more directly. But of course these people need their funding from the people that are out there making money, which is how the commercial types like to justify themselves that they're actually lubricating society. So that might be true, it might not. But you do get these 2 types of people. He is afraid to sin. His speech is appropriate to the occasion, soft, truthful and sweet. He has set foot on the first yoga bhumika, which is a stage, platform, state of yoga. So he's afraid to sin. We get these descriptions, don't we? and they can become like straitjackets. And they sound great. Somebody that's afraid to sin, engaged in meritorious activities, sweet speech, all the rest of it. And I suppose we can look at this in ourselves. This is what we can look at. It's a way of shining a light on ourselves and looking at our own activities and questioning the underlying attitude, the underlying tones behind them. Because we're often blind to ourselves. We're so caught up in our own self-image, even the idea of being a spiritual practitioner. We can be blind to many aspects of ourselves which we should bring into awareness. And being afraid to sin, it's got connotations of divine retribution. But I think it just means not being tempted to indulge in self-indulgent behaviour, really. He's devoted to the service of holy ones. He gathers scriptures whenever and wherever he finds them and studies them. His constant quest is the crossing of the ocean of samsara. He alone is a seeker. Others are selfish. So others are selfish in that their main interest is pursuing their own needs. I suppose you could argue that the seeker is doing the same, but I think there's a bigger imperative, a cosmic imperative even, that you're giving yourself over to, the quest for spiritual realization, because it's not something that you actually gain. You're giving up yourself. And so this is the stage of the seeker, the one that is looking for understanding, the prelude to being a spiritual practitioner.